I never expected my life to lead me back into a kitchen, not after everything I'd survived, not after running as far as I could from the heat, the chaos, and the memories. But desperation has a way of pulling you into places you swore you'd never return to. And tonight, as I stood in the alley behind the Emberline, one of the most ruthless fine dining restaurants in the city, I felt that old familiar tremble in my hands. My name is Mara Ellison, and this was my first day. The Emberline wasn't the kind of place you simply walked into, it was an institution. A machine. A battlefield. And at the top of that battlefield stood one man, Executive Chef Adrian Locke. I had never met him, but I had heard enough stories to stain the walls. They said he fired people mid-service for breathing wrong. They said he once threw a plate across the kitchen because a garnish was placed half an inch too far to the left. They said he didn't believe in second chances. And here I was, a woman with more scars on the inside than the outside, begging for my first. I pushed open the heavy back door and stepped into the roar of the kitchen. Steam fogged the air. Pans hissed. Knives clattered. Voices rose and fell like a storm barely restrained. And every single person in that room moved with the speed and precision of soldiers under command. A tall, sharp-eyed sous chef spotted me. "You're late." "I'm early," I said, checking my watch. "By 15 minutes. He raised one eyebrow, unimpressed. "Chef Locke expects new hires an hour early." "Didn't anyone tell you?" "No. They hadn't. But I knew better than to argue." He thrust a black apron into my hands. "I'm Luca. I run this kitchen under Chef Locke. Today, you do exactly what I say. Don't speak unless spoken to. And don't, ever, get in the chef's way." My throat tightened. Understood. I followed him to Garde Manger, the cold station, my new home. A line cook named Riley glanced at me with pity. "New," she whispered. I nodded. "How long do they usually last?" I whispered back. She smirked. "Depends. Some break in an hour. Some, a week." "And you?" "5 months." She shrugged. "I cry in the walk-in about twice a week." "Not today though, today's been quiet." "Quiet?" Before I could ask what she meant, the kitchen door slammed open with a force that silenced the entire brigade. Everyone straightened. Knives paused mid-air. Pans were abandoned. Breath itself seemed to hold. That's when I saw him, Chef Adrian Locke. Tall. Cold. Precise. Dark hair tied back, sleeves rolled up, forearms scarred from a lifetime of burns. His presence alone cut through the room like a blade. His eyes scanned the kitchen, and stopped on me. "Who is she?" His voice was low, lethal. Luca stepped forward. "New hire, chef. Mara Ellison." Chef Locke didn't address him. He walked right up to me, so close I could see the fine burn marks along his wrists. "What makes you think you belong in my kitchen?" he asked. My throat dried instantly. Dozens of eyes watched me. I swallowed hard. I'm willing to work, chef." "Everyone is willing to work," he said. "Until they realize what work means here." He lifted a pan from a nearby cook, inspected it, then slammed it down so hard the handles rattled. "Get to Garde Manger," he ordered. "If you ruin one plate, you're out. No discussion." "Yes, chef." He turned without another word, but not before leaving behind a chill that wrapped itself around my ribs. As I took my position at the station, Riley whispered, "Welcome to hell." I exhaled slowly. She wasn't wrong. The rest of the night blurred into a frenzy of chopped herbs, shaky hands, and shouted orders. Every time Chef Locke passed behind me, I felt the weight of his judgment like a blade at my neck. And every time I looked up, Luca's stern eyes reminded me that failure wasn't an option. By the end of service, my feet burned, my arms ached, and my chest felt like it had been squeezed through a sieve. But I hadn't been fired. Not yet. Still, as I untied my apron, I realized one thing clearly. Chef Adrian Locke didn't just test skills. He tested souls. And tomorrow, he would test mine again. Because the next night, Chef Locke didn't just challenge my abilities, he uncovered the one secret I never wanted anyone in that kitchen to know. The mistake that wasn't mine. The morning of my second shift felt heavier than the first. Yesterday I was anxious. Today, I was afraid. Not of the work. Not of the speed. Not even of the heat that clung to the kitchen like a fever. I was afraid of him. Chef Adrian Locke. His voice still echoed inside my skull, sharp and cold, replaying every moment he'd hovered behind me. I felt like he could see straight through my skin. And if he ever saw too deep, he'd see the thing I was trying hardest to outrun. I arrived 45 minutes early, still not the full hour Luca demanded, but I wasn't brave enough to test my limits today. When I walked in, Riley from the garde-manger looked up from peeling cucumbers. Back again, she said, surprised. Most people don't return. Why not? Nightmares. She shrugged. Fear. Or they just crack. I forced a weak smile. Good to know I'm too stubborn to crack. Stubborn is good, she whispered. Stubborn keeps you alive in here. Before I could answer, Luca stormed through the room, slamming down a clipboard. The quiet morning is over. We're behind. We have a VIP party tonight, 70 guests. Mara, prepare 5 trays of heirloom tomatoes, chiffonade the basil, and for the love of God, don't slice your fingers off. Chef Locke hates blood. Noted, I muttered. He didn't hear me. Or he didn't care. I worked quickly, trying to find a rhythm, to stay invisible. But the louder the kitchen grew, the more my hands began to tremble, an old reflex I hated more than anything. Sometimes I wondered if it would ever stop. By noon, I'd prepped nearly everything Luca asked for. I carried a large tray of tomatoes toward the walk-in fridge, balancing it on my palms. Then, someone bumped me. Hard. The tray slipped from my grasp. Time slowed. Tomatoes crashed to the floor in a bright, brutal explosion. Damn it. I gasped, crouching down. The kitchen froze. Luca's head snapped toward me. Mara, what did you do? I didn't do anything. Someone bumped. Before I finished, Chef Locke appeared. Not walking. Not hurrying. Just appearing, like he materialized out of the steam. His eyes swept over the mess on the floor. Red splattered across the tiles. Basil scattered like confetti. And me, kneeling there, heartbeat thundering. What happened, he said, not asked. Luca glared at me. She dropped the tray, Chef. No. I looked up. Someone ran into me. I swear. Chef Locke's gaze locked onto mine. Cold. Unmoving. Impossible to read. Who bumped you, he said. I didn't see. They were behind me. He slowly crouched, picking up one ruined tomato between his fingers. You're telling me, he said softly, that someone made you fail. Yes. And you don't know who? No. He leaned closer. Mara. Look at me. I didn't want to. But I did. Did your hand shake, he said, before the tray fell? My lungs froze. How did he notice that? How did he see something I'd tried my entire life to hide? No, Chef, they didn't. Don't lie to me. His voice sharpened. I watch everything. I saw your fingers. They trembled when you picked up the tray. Heat burned my cheeks. Shame. Humiliation. And fear. Fear that he was seeing too much. It won't happen again, I whispered. He stood. You're right. It won't. Then he turned to the entire kitchen. Everyone listens. No one touches her stations. No one bumps her. No one distracts her. If I find out who's sabotaging my line, they're gone. Immediately. My breath caught. Sabotaging? So he did believe me? He turned back to me. Mara, he said. Get up. Clean this. Restart. You have 20 minutes. Don't waste them. He walked away, but not before lowering his voice so only I could hear. And fix whatever makes your hands shake. This kitchen doesn't tolerate weakness. The words hit hard, but something else hit harder. He wasn't mocking me. He wasn't insulting me. He was warning me. Protecting me? No. That wasn't possible. But he wasn't letting anyone else touch me either. As I cleaned the mess, Riley leaned close. Mara, she whispered, glancing around, do you want to know something? What? No one saw who bumped you. She swallowed. Because whoever did it made sure no one would. I froze. Someone wanted me gone. Tonight wasn't an accident. It was a message. And it wasn't finished. Because when I returned to my station, I found something waiting for me, something small, sharp, and terrifying, proving the sabotage wasn't just real. It was personal. By the time I finished scrubbing the floor, my knees were raw and my hands smelled like vinegar and crushed basil. The kitchen had returned to its rhythm, fast, brutal, unforgiving, but something felt different now. Whispers moved like smoke through the room. Eyes flicked in my direction and away again. Everyone seemed to know something I didn't. I returned to garde-manger trying to shake off the worry. My station was empty, clean, quiet, untouched. Or so I thought. On the cutting board lay a folded parchment paper. At first I assumed it was one of Luca's notes, another list of things I hadn't prepped fast enough. But when I opened it, a chill ran through me. Inside the paper was a razor blade. Small. Sharp. Cold. And on the paper, written in slanted black marker. Leave. Before he fires you. Or worse. My breath caught. This wasn't frustration. This wasn't a kitchen prank. This wasn't an accident. It was a threat. Someone wanted me terrified enough to quit before Chef Locke decided my fate. Someone didn't want me to have a chance. I looked around slowly, careful not to make it obvious. No one met my eyes. No one reacted. No one saw. But they knew. Riley appeared beside me carrying a bin of lettuce. You okay? You look like you saw a ghost. I swallowed hard. Should I tell her? Should I show her? No. Not yet. I couldn't trust anyone here, not when someone had slipped something this dangerous onto my board without a single witness. I'm fine, I said. She frowned. If you say so. She moved back to her station, but I could feel the worry lingering in her eyes. I slipped the razor blade into my apron pocket, folded the paper tight, and tossed it into the waste bin under the counter. My heart pounded so loudly it felt like the whole kitchen could hear it. Before I could breathe, the air shifted again, everyone straightened. Chef Adrian Locke entered. He didn't yell. He didn't snap. He didn't even look angry. But the room tightened around him like gravity increased whenever he was near. He scanned the stations until his gaze landed on mine. Ellison, he said. I forced my voice steady. Yes, chef? You're doing tomatoes again. A relief, almost. At least it wasn't a firing. Yes, chef. He came closer, inspecting my board. His eyes flicked across the empty surface. Where's your prep blade? He asked. I froze. I haven't grabbed one yet. Why not? His voice sharpened. Because someone left a razor blade on my station like a predator marking territory. But I couldn't say that. I was about to, chef. He walked to the magnetic strip, grabbed a chef's knife, tested its weight, then set it gently, almost too gently, on my cutting board. "Use this," he said. "And don't lose your focus again." "I won't," I whispered. He leaned in slightly, low enough that only I could hear. "Make one mistake," he said, "and the kitchen will eat you alive. Understand?" My stomach tightened. "Yes, chef." He nodded once and moved on. His words weren't cruel, they were a warning. But I couldn't tell if he was warning me about the job, or the people inside this room. I began slicing tomatoes with careful precision, each movement controlled, measured. But my mind was racing. Who had access to my station? Who hated me enough to scare me off on day 2? I replayed the moment I was bumped the day before. A blur of a figure behind me. Too quick. Too intentional. And now this. It wasn't clumsiness. It wasn't a coincidence. It escalated. By mid-afternoon, tension in the kitchen coiled tighter than the cords of the heat lamps. Luca shouted orders. Pans hissed like angry snakes. Everyone seemed hungry for perfection, or someone's failure. Riley leaned toward me again during a brief lull. "Mara," she whispered, "did something happen?" "You're jumpy." I swallowed. "It's nothing." She studied me, not convinced. "You know," she murmured, "before you came, this station was cursed." My hand stilled. "What?" "It's stupid, but 3 people quit from garde-manger in the last 3 weeks. One just walked out mid-shift and never came back." "Why?" "No one knows." She lowered her voice further. "Or no one talks." A chill crawled up my spine. Before I could ask anything more, the doors slammed open again. "Service meeting." Luca barked. "Everyone move." We rushed to the front of the kitchen, forming a tight semicircle. Chef Locke stood at the center, arms crossed. "Tonight will be relentless," he said. "I expect precision. I expect speed. I expect no excuses. If you cannot meet that standard." His gaze pinned directly on me. "You should not be here." My throat tightened. But then, something strange happened. He shifted his eyes away. Not with disappointment. With something else. Something close to warning? Or protection? I couldn't tell. Not yet. But I knew one thing. Whoever wanted me gone, they weren't finished. And neither was I. Because just when I thought the threats were done, someone made sure my next mistake wouldn't just get me fired, it would get me hurt. By the time dinner service approached, the kitchen felt like a pressure cooker ready to explode. Heat radiated from every corner. Voices layered over each other in sharp, frantic bursts. The scent of burnt butter, seared meat, and fear filled the air. And beneath it all, I felt eyes on me. Not Chef Locke's. Not Luca's. Something smaller. Quieter. Watching me from the dark edges of the room. Garde-manger was the calmest station, on paper. Cold food, salads, appetizers. But tonight, even the fridges felt hostile. I cut, chopped, plated, moved. My hands weren't trembling anymore, not from nerves, at least. Now it was adrenaline. Survival. "Mara," Luca barked, 2 tartars, table 12. "Move." "Yes, chef." I worked quickly, assembling the steak tartare the way I'd practiced, uniform dice, perfect seasoning, chilled plate. Riley passed behind me, checking her own tickets. But as I reached for the microgreens garnish, my knife slipped. Not from my hand. From the cutting board. It slid, not naturally, but as if something underneath it shifted. I lifted the board. My stomach dropped. Someone had smeared a thin line of oil underneath it, nearly invisible. Riley glanced over. "You okay?" I forced a nod. Slipped. "It's fine." It wasn't fine. Not an accident. Not a coincidence. A razor blade yesterday. Oil today. This was escalating. I kept working, trying to look normal, but a knot tightened in my chest. Someone wanted me injured, or worse. And in a kitchen full of knives, flames, boiling oil, and steel? It wouldn't take much. The service bell rang sharply. "Run it!" Luca shouted. I slid the dishes to the pass, but Chef Locke stepped in front of me. "Stop." My heart seized. He inspected the plates with surgical precision. His eyes didn't leave the food, but his voice lowered so only I could hear. "Your board is slipping." My blood froze. He noticed? "Be careful," he added softly, almost too low to be real. "Some mistakes don't get second chances." He wasn't talking about me making errors. He was warning me again. But before I could speak, he moved on, shouting for the next ticket. I felt Riley's stare burning into my side. "Mara," she whispered, "that wasn't normal." "Chef doesn't," she hesitated. "Chef doesn't tell people to be careful. He just lets them fall." I swallowed. "I don't know what's going on." She glanced around, lowering her voice even more. "I think someone's setting you up." "No kidding." But before I could react, the next avalanche hit. "Garde-manger." Luca's voice snapped like a whip. "Mara, your station. Now." I rushed back, only to see a small container on my cutting board. A container I didn't put there. White powder. My stomach twisted. I unscrewed the lid carefully. It wasn't sugar. It wasn't salt. It was citric acid, powerful enough to ruin any dish it touched, corrosive enough to cause burns if used wrong. If this had gotten into any plate without me noticing, Luca would have fired me on the spot. Chef Locke would have destroyed me. This wasn't just sabotage anymore. It was framing. Riley's face blanched. "Mara, what the hell?" I shook my head, pulse hammering. "Someone is trying to set me up." "Why you?" she whispered. "You just got here." "I don't know," I said honestly. "But they're not subtle anymore." Before she could answer, a shadow fell over us. Chef Locke. He looked between me, the container, and the board. His eyes darkened, not with anger, but with something far sharper. "Explain," he said quietly. My heart thudded. Everyone nearby had gone silent. This was not a conversation anyone wanted to be caught witnessing. "I didn't place this here," I said. "Someone else." "Who?" His tone cut like a blade. "I don't know." I turned away for 30 seconds. "That's all it takes for a kitchen to collapse," he said, stepping closer. "Or for someone to get hurt." He wasn't blaming me. He was warning me again. And then, unexpectedly, he picked up the container, unscrewed the lid, sniffed it, and clenched his jaw. "Whoever did this," he said, "knew exactly how to destroy service." His eyes swept the room. "Everyone within earshot, get back to work. Now." Cooks scattered like frightened birds. But he didn't move. Instead, he lowered his voice. "Mara," he said, "you need to stay alert. And you need to tell me everything from now on." My breath hitched. "Because you think someone's targeting me?" His jaw tightened. "I don't think," he said. "I know." The words rippled through me. Someone was targeting me. And Chef Locke knew it. Maybe he'd known long before I realized. But before I could ask anything more, a crash echoed across the kitchen. A scream followed. People sprinted toward the fry station. Chef Locke's eyes snapped up, and he ran. Riley grabbed my wrist, face pale. "Mara. I think whoever is doing this just moved on to something worse." Because when I pushed through the crowd, I didn't find a random accident, I found a message meant for me, written in blood. I shoved through the circle of cooks crowding the fry station, my heart beating so hard it echoed in my ears. The smell hit first, burnt oil, metal, and something sharp, warm, unmistakably human. Blood. A prep cook, Janelle, a quiet girl who kept mostly to herself, was sitting on the floor, clutching her palm. Crimson dripped between her fingers, staining her apron, her pants, the white tile beneath her. Chef Locke knelt beside her, his presence swallowing the chaos around him. He wrapped her hand in a clean towel, his face cold but focused. "What happened?" Luca demanded, voice tight. "She reached for the fryer basket," someone said. "It wasn't locked." "It always locks," Luca snapped. "It's impossible to open by accident." A heavy silence fell. Chef Locke's eyes lifted slowly. The line parted as if pushed by invisible force. He stood, towel-soaked red in his hand. "Who prepped this station?" he asked. "Cameron," Luca answered. "But he stepped away for—" "I stepped away for 1 minute," Cameron barked. "The lock was in place, Chef. I swear." Chef Locke's eyes didn't move to Cameron. They moved to me. Because I was standing directly across from the fryer. And I knew why. Luca followed Chef's gaze. "Wait, are you saying—" "No," Chef Locke cut in. "She didn't do this." His voice wasn't loud. It was absolute. No one questioned him further. Janelle was escorted to first aid. The kitchen resumed motion, shaken, uneven, afraid, but moving. As Chef Locke turned to leave, the towel slipped slightly in his hand, exposing a sharp, clean cut across the cloth. The fryer handle. It wasn't just unlocked. It was rigged. A setup. And when the cooks returned to work, something caught my eye. Beneath the fryer station, slipped between 2 tiles, a small piece of folded paper. My breath seized. Not now. Not here. But I crouched slowly, pretending to pick up a dropped towel. With my body shielding it from sight, I slid the paper into my palm. My fingers trembled as I unfolded it. "You were supposed to be the one bleeding. Not her." My stomach twisted so violently I nearly dropped the note. Riley appeared at my elbow, eyes wide. "What's going on?" I swallowed. "Nothing. Just prep." She frowned. "Mara, why are you shaking?" "You're scaring me." I folded the note tight, shoved it in my apron, and forced out, "I'm fine." But I wasn't. Someone in this kitchen wanted me hurt, badly enough to sabotage a fryer. Someone didn't care who else got caught in the crossfire. And after the razor blade, the oil, the hidden acid. This was a message. A warning. Or a promise. As I moved back to garde manger, Chef Locke stepped in front of me. "Walk with me," he said. I followed him to the back corridor, away from the heat, the noise, the prying eyes. He turned to face me, arms folded, jaw hard. "Something is happening in my kitchen," he said. "And you know more than you're saying." My pulse stuttered. "Chef, don't lie to me." His voice cut through the air. "Someone is targeting you. Someone is escalating. And I need to know every detail. Now." I froze. He knew. He had known from the beginning. "Why?" I whispered. "Why do you care?" "I'm new. I'm expendable. You fired a guy yesterday for sneezing wrong." He stepped forward just enough to make the wall feel close behind me. "Because this isn't normal sabotage," he said. "This is personal. And if they're willing to injure my staff to get to you—" He stopped himself. His jaw clenched. "You think I'm going to let this slide?" he finished quietly. My throat tightened. "Chef. I don't know who it is. Maybe you don't." His eyes narrowed. "Or maybe you're terrified to say." I looked away. If I showed him the notes, he'd, what? Protect me? Fire half the kitchen? Shut everything down? Or get dragged into something he couldn't control? But I didn't get an answer. Riley rushed toward us, breathless. "Chef. Mara. You need to see this, now." We followed her back to garde manger. She pointed to the fridge door. My blood turned cold. Scratched into the condensation with the tip of a knife were 6 words. Next time I aim for you. I nearly staggered. Chef Locke's face darkened, rage, cold and quiet, simmering under the surface like a pot about to boil over. He turned to Luca. Lock down the kitchen, he said. No one leaves. No one enters. Chef? This is no longer a kitchen drama, Locke said. This is violence. He looked at me then. And in his eyes wasn't an annoyance. Or disappointment. Or irritation. It was fear. For me. Because before the lockdown even began, Chef Locke received a message of his own, and it revealed exactly why I was the target, and who wanted me gone. The moment Chef Locke ordered the kitchen locked down, panic spread like heat from an open oven. Cooks glanced at one another with suspicion. The dishwashers whispered nervously near the sinks. Even Luca, usually stone-faced, looked unsettled. But Chef Locke wasn't watching them. He was watching me. Mara, he said quietly, come with me. I stayed close to him as he led me into his office, a narrow room tucked behind dry storage. Steel shelves lined the walls, filled with binders, inventory sheets, old menus. A single lamp cast a dim glow over the room. He shut the door. Sit. I did. He didn't sit. He paced. Which, from a man as controlled as him, was terrifying. I received something, he said finally. My chest tightened. What? A message. I braced myself. From who? He pulled a phone from his pocket, older model, scuffed edges, cracked corner, and turned the screen toward me. A text message. Blocked number. No introduction. No name. Just one sentence. She doesn't belong in your kitchen. Remove her. My blood ran cold. Chef Locke watched my face. Sound familiar? I nodded slowly. They've been threatening me since yesterday. His jaw tightened. How many messages? I hesitated. Lied. 2. Try again. I looked down. 4. He stepped closer. Mara, he said, voice low, you are not safe here unless I know everything. I exhaled shakily. A razor blade. A note telling me to leave. Oil on my board. Acid placed on my counter. Then the fryer today. He listened without interrupting. Without disbelief. Without judgment. And the writing on the fridge, he asked. That was the worst one, I whispered. It said they missed their target. And that target was supposed to be you. Yes. His knuckles whitened around the phone. Someone is escalating. And fast. Why? I asked. I've only been here 2 days. Why me? He paused, then turned to a locked drawer. He unlocked it with a small silver key and pulled out a stack of manila files, employee files. He dropped one onto the table in front of me. The tab read. Ellison, Mara. My heart stopped. How do you already have a file on me? I do my homework, he said simply. Before I hire anyone. I hesitated before flipping it open. Inside was my application. A resume. My signed onboarding forms. But on top of that, something that didn't belong to me. A printout. A screenshot. An email. Sent to Chef Locke anonymously. Subject line, a warning about Mara Ellison. The message was short. She's in trouble. She ruins every kitchen she enters. Ask anyone from Braxton's Bistro. Don't hire her. My heart pounded. That's not true. I've never worked at Braxton's. I barely worked at all. I know, he said. I looked up sharply. You know? I checked, he said. You weren't in their system. You never worked there. Which means this was sent to sabotage you before you even stepped into this kitchen. I felt dizzy. Someone didn't just want me gone. They wanted to destroy me entirely. I almost didn't hire you, he admitted quietly. But something about this was too deliberate. Too aggressive. Too personal. He sat down across from me, folding his hands. Mara. Who did you upset before coming here? I swallowed. No one. I left home. I moved cities. I didn't know anyone here. Everyone has someone, he said. Someone who holds a grudge. Someone who wants revenge. I closed my eyes. A face flickered at the back of my memory, one I tried for months to forget. No, I whispered. It can't be. Chef Locke studied me carefully. Mara, who? I opened my mouth, but the knock at the office door stopped me cold. 3 fast raps. Not Luca. Not Riley. Not anyone whose footsteps I recognized. Chef, a voice called from the other side. You need to see something. Chef Locke opened the door. And the entire kitchen staff stood there, silent, rigid, afraid. Luca stepped forward. Chef, he said, the security office just reviewed the hallway cameras. My breath caught. Riley moved aside, revealing the tablet in her hand. She pressed play. There, on the grainy footage, was a figure approaching the walk-in fridge earlier that day. A figure wearing a black jacket. Hood up. Face turned away. Slipping something into the condensation on the door. And then the figure turned slightly. Just enough to show a jawline. A posture. A shape I recognized instantly. Because I knew that silhouette. I'd seen it before. Many times. My vision blurred. Chef Locke stiffened beside me. Mara? Do you know them? I nodded slowly, my throat tight. Yes, I whispered. I know exactly who that is. Because the person in that footage wasn't a rival cook, or a jealous coworker, or even someone from this kitchen. It was someone from my past, the one person I never wanted to see again. The moment I recognized the silhouette on the security footage, the air seemed to vanish from the room. Everything, the noise, the heat, the frantic energy of the kitchen, collapsed into white static around me. It couldn't be him. Not here. Not now. But the truth stared at me from the screen, cold and undeniable. Ethan Hale. My ex. My mistake. My shadow. The man I left behind when I fled my old life, the man who made me believe I was worth nothing, the man who said I'd fail in any kitchen I entered, even though he never let me try. I felt my knees weaken. Chef Locke's voice cut through the haze. Mara. Who is he? I swallowed hard. He's someone I knew. Someone I left. Why would he do this? Luca demanded. Because Ethan never believed I deserved a second chance. Because the moment I tried to leave him, he made it his mission to destroy me. I forced my breath steady. He didn't want me working, I said. He didn't want me anywhere he couldn't control. When I got the job here, he found out. Chef Locke's jaw flexed. So he decided to threaten you. Sabotage you. Injure my crew. I nodded shakily. He always said he'd ruin any place I went, I whispered. And he meant it. For a moment, no one moved. The kitchen, so loud, so chaotic, felt dead silent. Every cook, every dishwasher, every server looked at me with a mix of disbelief and pity. Except Chef Locke. He didn't look shocked. He looked furious. But not at me. As of this moment, he said, voice low and controlled, this kitchen is locked down. Luca, secure the exits. Riley, call the building manager and get police on standby. Then he turned to me. Mara. You're coming with me. I felt a jolt of panic. Chef, I didn't want this. I didn't want any of you dragged into It's too late, he said. He already dragged us in. He led me out of the kitchen and into the side corridor by the delivery entrance. The hallway lights flickered faintly. The building was old, the utilities temperamental. Perfect shelter for someone who wanted to slip in unnoticed. A shiver crawled down my spine. What if he's still here? I whispered. He is, Chef Locke said. I froze. What? His eyes narrowed. Security caught the footage less than 20 minutes ago. He left the fridge hallway, but he never exited the building. My pulse pounded in my throat. He's hiding, Locke continued. Somewhere inside the Emberline. My mouth went dry. Ethan wasn't just threatening me from a distance anymore. He was close. Too close. I stepped back instinctively, but Chef Locke caught my wrist before I could retreat. Mara, he said quietly, you're safe with me. Something in his tone, steady, cold, certain, cut through the fear fogging my mind. But before I could answer, a loud clang echoed down the hallway. Chef Locke pushed me behind him instantly. Footsteps. Uneven. Deliberate. A dark shape emerged from the shadows. Ethan. Hood up, jaw clenched, eyes locked on me with a wildness I recognized too well. There you are, he said, voice dripping with venom. Running again. Always running. Chef Locke stepped forward. You need to leave this building. Now. Ethan smirked. Or what? You'll fire me? This isn't a joke, Locke snapped. You injured one of my cooks. You've been sabotaging my kitchen. And you threatened my staff. Ethan's eyes glinted. Not your staff. Her. His gaze drilled into me, sharp and hateful. You don't belong here, Mara, he hissed. You never did. Something cracked inside me. All the fear. All the shame. All the nights I spent believing I was worthless. I stepped out from behind Chef Locke. No, I said, voice steady. I don't belong with you. Ethan laughed, a cold, cruel sound. You think he'll protect you? You think this place wants you? Look around, Mara. You're weak. You always were. That's enough, Locke growled. Ethan ignored him. You ran like a coward. And now you think you're someone? You think you can just rebuild your life without me? Yes, I said. He froze. Yes, I repeated, stronger this time. I can. He lunged forward. Chef Locke moved faster. He grabbed Ethan by the collar, slammed him against the wall, and pinned him there with enough force to shake the plaster. Touch her again, Locke said, voice cold as ice, and you'll regret it. Security arrived seconds later. Ethan struggled, screamed, cursed, but he was dragged away. Out of the hallway. Out of the Emberline. Out of my life. For the first time in years. I breathed. Chef Locke turned to me, eyes softened. It's over, he said quietly. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know how to thank him. I didn't know how to stand after years of collapsing. So I whispered the only thing I could. Thank you. Adrian. For once, he didn't correct me. He just nodded. You're safe now, he said. But this kitchen, this world, it's unforgiving. I met his gaze. I can handle unforgiving, I said. I can't handle being afraid anymore. A slow, almost invisible change crossed his face, something softer, something dangerous, something real. Good, he murmured. Because tomorrow, we start over. I exhaled. Tomorrow. For once, the word didn't terrify me. But even after Ethan was removed, a new whisper began circulating through the kitchen, that Chef Locke didn't protect anyone. Except me. And not everyone planned to let that go quietly. The kitchen that finally saw me. For the first time since stepping into the Emberline, the next morning felt different. The hallways didn't echo with the same suffocating dread. The kitchen lights seemed less harsh. Even the steel counters, usually cold and unforgiving, looked almost welcoming. Maybe it was because Ethan was gone. Maybe it was because I'd survived him. Or maybe it was because Chef Adrian Locke stood at the head of the kitchen when I arrived, watching me with an expression I had never seen on his face before. Not judgment. Not irritation. Not suspicion. Something else, something I didn't dare name. "Morning," he said. My heart jolted. He had never said morning to me. Or to anyone, as far as I'd seen. "Morning, Chef," I whispered. He stepped aside to let me pass, but his gaze stayed on me as I walked toward garde-manger. My station was spotless. Organized. Restocked. Someone had cleaned it meticulously. Riley approached, smiling softly. "I did it," she whispered. "Figured you'd had enough chaos for 1 week." My chest tightened with gratitude. "Thank you." "You earned it," she said. "You survived the fire." But not everyone agreed. Whispers flickered around the room like sparks in dry leaves. "Chef Locke protects her. She gets special treatment now. Of course she's still here, she has him." I heard every word. And yet, for the first time, the words didn't shake me. Service began, and the kitchen moved in a fierce but steady rhythm. No accidents. No threats. No strange notes tucked beneath my board. But tension simmered beneath the surface. Halfway through prep, Luca approached me with a clipboard. His tone was neutral, his expression unreadable. "Ellison," he said. "Chef wants you at Expo tonight." My breath caught. "Expo? Are you sure?" "No one gets called to Expo this early," Riley whispered behind me. "That's huge." But Luca didn't elaborate. "You'll stand beside Chef. You'll plate with him. Don't screw up." My pulse hammered. I cleaned my hands, tied a fresh apron, and stepped into the small space beside Chef Locke. He stood tall, calm, lethal in his focus. Even in stillness, he commanded the room. "Ready?" he asked. No one had ever asked me that before, not in any kitchen, not in any job, not in any part of my life. "Yes, Chef," I said. And for the next 3 hours, I worked beside him. Learning. Watching. Matching his pace, his precision, his intensity. The rest of the kitchen watched with a mix of envy and awe. Some glared. Some whispered. Some pretended not to stare at all. But no one touched my station. No one sabotaged my knives. No one slipped notes beneath my board. Not anymore. When the final ticket rang out, Locke stepped back, crossing his arms. "Good work," he said. The room froze. "Good work," Riley mouthed behind him, eyes wide like she'd just witnessed a miracle. I nearly laughed. Chef Locke didn't praise. He didn't compliment. He didn't approve. Yet here he was, offering those words to me. "Thank you, Chef," I said softly. He looked at me for a long moment, long enough that the entire kitchen pretended not to watch. "You earned your place today," he said. "And yesterday. And the day before." My heart tightened. I just wanted a chance. "You took it," he replied. "And you're still here." He exhaled slowly, as though the admission cost him something. "You're one of the only cooks who didn't break," he added. "And you didn't run." He didn't say Ethan's name. He didn't have to. I swallowed hard. "I'm done running." A shift passed between us, quiet, heavy, undeniable. But whatever lived in that moment, we both let it settle without naming it. The ember line began to close down around us. Lights dimmed. Pans clattered as stations were cleaned. People filed out in small groups, glancing back at us with curiosity and confusion. Riley hugged me before leaving. "You made it, Mara. Really made it." Luca nodded once, his version of respect. And then it was just me and Chef Locke in the dim light of the kitchen. "Mara," he said, voice low, "if anything like this ever happens again, you come to me first." I nodded. "I will." He stepped aside. "Go home. Rest. You'll need it." "For tomorrow?" I asked. "For everything after," he said. I left the restaurant with my chest full, not with fear, but with something I thought I'd lost a long time ago. Hope. Because I hadn't just escaped my past. I had earned my place in a kitchen built to break people. And somehow, I wasn't broken. Not this time. In the end, I didn't survive because I was strong. I survived because I was tired of being afraid. And sometimes, finding your voice starts with the moment you decide you're done running. If this story touched you, even for a moment, hit like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss another dark, emotional tale from Granny's Untold Stories. And if you know someone who's afraid to take that first step, share this video. Because sometimes courage isn't loud, sometimes it's just choosing to stay standing in the kitchen that tries to burn you.